Good morning and welcome back to a new season of Unstoppable. I'm Brittany LaVecchia, joined by Spencer Sachs. Coming up on today's show, we've got all the biggest sports moments of the fall and summer so far. Our team will be breaking down the start of the NFL's 105th season of action. Then we'll kick it to the MLB squad as they talk MLB postseason, and then our F1 panel on a crazy season so far. And finally, on today's show, Dan and Rami have Unstoppable's top 10. But first, let's hit the rundown.
Men's and women's cross country started off their season strong at the Big East Preview and the Cantonello Invitational. At the Big East Preview, revolutionary Sarah Mitchell and Michael Bulka take home individual wins against Georgetown. The women's team came out on top, winning the team score. At the Cantonello Invitational, Bulka earned his second win of the season. The Revolutionaries will compete again on October 4th at the Pirate Invite hosted by East Carolina University.
Men's and women's soccer headed into conference play this week. The men's team faced a hard-fought loss against Duquesne University on Saturday with a final score of 1-0. On Tuesday, the team took a crosstown match against Howard University, ending in a 1-1 tie. The team will kick off against George Mason tomorrow night at 7 p.m.
Women's soccer secured a 1-0 win against St. Bonaventure in their first match of A10 competition. And it was grad student Lauren Prentice who scored the eventual game winner in the 78th minute. Goalkeeper Ainsley Lump recorded her first clean sheet of the season, playing for all 90 minutes. On Sunday, the team faced off against St. Louis University, but they weren't able to repeat their success from the last match, losing 4-0. They will next play George Mason at home on Sunday at 1 p.m.
As we head into another year of GW Sports, we have some exciting news with a new athletic director. Michael Lippitz is joining the Revs this year after being athletic director at the University of Illinois Chicago since 2019. Lippitz has also had 2 decades of A10 experience. According to Lippitz, GW is poised for greatness. Guess we'll just have to wait to see what he brings this season.
The GW water polo team headed to sunny California last week in a 4-match trip. The team fell to San Jose State in its first match, but was able to make a comeback against Fresno Pacific and UC Merced. The team eventually fell to Santa Clara to close out the tournament. Next, the Revs will head to New York City to take on Wagner and Fordham.
Volleyball season is in full swing, and the Revs just scored 2 3-0 victories at the Delaware State tournament. Match 1 against Delaware State was a strong start for the team, with senior outside hitter Salem Johannes earning 13 kills. The second match against the Harvard Crimson kept the momentum going. The Revolutionaries outkilled the Crimson 44-36, with Delara Elmasiglu and Grace Allreed leading the attack. These wins moved the team to 10-3 in 2024 as they head into A10 play next week.
Looking ahead, the GW swim and dive team will kick off their 24-25 campaign on September 28th at Virginia Tech. The Revs are looking to win both men's and women's title for the 4th consecutive year.
A strong start for GW Sports this year, and a lot more to come.
We're going to head to a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I am joined on the panel by Mark Achkar and Brick. The NFL season has kicked off with a bang. Tell me, Mark, whose season started off the hottest?
Well, I never thought I'd be saying this, but the biggest surprise of the year would be the 3-0 Vikings, led by MVP candidate Sam Darnold. Can you believe that? We're going to go to the board to show you real quick. Here's a lovely picture of Sam. And just talk about the Vikings this season. They're somehow 3-0 with big wins over the 49ers and the Texans. I mean, need I say more? Starting off with the best wide receiver in the league, Justin Jefferson. He's been all that. I mean, I could be under center and he could have all pro numbers. Who even knows at this point? Look at the quick odds. Odds to win the NFC North for the Vikings are plus 190, and I do like those odds with that quick start. Odds to make the playoffs, minus 190. Why not this season? And then odds to win the Super Bowl, you never know, plus 3K. So, I mean, I think the Vikings are real contenders. I mean, somehow they've done this, and there's always surprise each year in the NFL. What would you say?
Well, you see, when Darnold was in Carolina, though, they started off 2-1. I mean, you know, and then that team got blown up. I mean, the Panthers still suck. But, you know, I mean, Brick, do you think that the Vikings are a contender here? Or
I think they got it this year. I mean, they have Justin Jefferson, which, as you said, best receiver in the league by far. I think they could make a legitimate run here. I believe in them.
I mean, I think the real issue is, like, the Jets. I feel like the Jets may have ruined Sam Darnold. He is only 27, his 7th season in the NFL. He's younger than Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, all these QBs. I mean, could you see a late switch from
I
them?
don't disagree with you in the sense that the Jets did ruin Sam Darnold a little bit. I mean, that team was not built for him. It was not a team ready to compete. It's very much what Young is in Carolina. I mean, he's a guy who has talent. I'm not going to say that he's a good quarterback. He has talent.
Yeah.
But that team just has no pieces. It has pieces now, and you can see he sucks. But I think that the Jets really did ruin him. I mean, I think with Aaron Rodgers now, we're Super Bowl contenders. I truly believe it. Tell me.
When was the last time you guys made the playoffs? Quick question.
2010,
Yeah,
AFC
that's
Championship
over a
game. Mark
decade and a half
Sanchez
ago.
was the
That's a decade and a
quarterback.
half ago.
Love me, Mark Sanchez.
Throwback.
Number 1 defense in the year that year. Tell me, Brick, who is your hottest team of the year so far?
I'm going to have to go with the Eagles.
The Eagles.
Honestly, I mean, even without our wide receiver core, we're missing Devonta Smith. We're missing A.J. Brown. We don't need him. Best offensive line in the league, best running back in the league, best tight end in the league.
Best tight end in the league.
Yeah,
Dallas Goedert? Did you see the numbers he put up yesterday?
It's one game.
I don't know. He's on a streak. He's due.
He definitely is due. I mean, that offense is ready to compete. I mean, we've seen them, compete last year, and then that team fell off towards the end of the season.
Yeah,
I mean, they did put up like 14. How much they've scored against Saints? 14 points?
It was a tough win, but it was a win.
It was a scrappy one. You do need that in the NFL.
No, exactly. Especially in those games.
Winning teams do find ways to
Saints
win.
will be a playoff contender. They will be.
It's a team that's putting up 40-plus points on
No,
Cowboys.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a crazy start. I mean, actually, let's change that. Who's a bust? Who started off the season absolutely atrocious?
Dallas.
I would say the Bengals,
I agree,
0-3. I mean, they lost to the Patriots. My Patriots were not supposed to be good this year at all. Lost to the Commanders. I mean, Jaden Daniels looked great, but Commanders are a rebuilding team, so I don't know what we could do about the Bengals this year.
I mean, I agree. I genuinely think the Bengals have really flopped this year. Joe Mixon leaving, I think, is a lot bigger of a loss than people, really like to admit. I think that offense is very much a redeveloping offense, retooling. Definitely have some holes in it.
Yeah, and that AFC North, Steelers 3-0. I mean, last year, we could bring up the clip. I did say Steelers were Super Bowl contenders, and you guys laughed at me. I mean, they're starting off the season hot. Their defense great as always. TJ Watt. I mean, what thoughts about the Steelers?
Well, I mean, you can't also take away Mike Tomlin. Right? Mike Tomlin is a coach who's never had a losing season. I mean, tell me.
An impressive stat line.
Now the real question is, when Russell Wilson gets healthy, do the Steelers go to Russell Wilson?
I think they stick with Justin Fields. I think he's been playing great. I think he's been fantastic. There's no reason to switch him. I think you just ride that as long as you can.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, the great quote is always, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. 3-0, why would you change something that's working?
Yeah, but let's hear something crazy. What's our craziest take for this year? Who do we see as the MVP candidate that no one's going to think of?
Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold.
Plus 2,500.
Sam Darnold to win an MVP. I think that
leading
we
the
can see
NFL in touchdowns. Who would have thought? 8 passing touchdowns for Sam Darnold.
What's your hottest take for the season?
Andy Dalton, comeback player of the year.
Oh, that's a good take. I like that one. Well, that's all the time we have. We'll be back next time for a trade deadline outlook and more NFL analysis. When we return, we're talking about playoffs and the MLB MVP race. We'll be right back.
From the GWTV studios in Washington, D.C., this is Capital Crossfire.
Joining me now on Unstoppables is Ethan Ja to break down the MLB playoff race. Ethan, we've seen a lot of different storylines. Ohtani's incredible season, the Padres' all-star turnaround. Tell me, what is your prediction for the postseason with it just right around the corner?
Well, I think that one very important thing that we should be highlighting is the success of two big market teams in the postseason. That is the lack of their success. And that is the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers and the Yankees are both having incredible seasons. They're both near the top of their respective leagues. They have incredible players in their roster.
But neither are a 100-win team, though.
Neither are a 100-win team.
This is one of the first seasons where we haven't seen a 100-win team in a decade or so?
It's a crazy. It's been a crazy time. But fortunately, we do have some 100-loss teams.
That's true. We have many 100-loss teams.
Yeah, and I think that two important players from the Dodgers and the Yankees that we should be highlighting are obviously Ohtani and Aaron Judge. Now, Ohtani, everyone knows the story about him. He got a $700 million contract in the offseason. He fired his translator after stealing millions of dollars from him, and is now putting up one of the most impressive seasons stat-wise. Over 50 stolen bases and 50 home runs. Never been done before.
I mean, he's on his way to 60. I mean, he hit, what, like 6 home runs this past week also?
Yeah.
Something? We got like 3 games left of the season?
Yeah, I heard that the guy who caught his 50th home run ball is getting nervous, hoping that he does a little bit worse towards the end of the season and doesn't lose the value.
I saw there was a lawsuit about it. I don't know if you saw. There's a lawsuit over who owns the baseball.
Yeah, no, there's multiple guys fighting over it. There's one kid, I think he said on his 18th birthday, he went to the game and he had the ball in his hands, but he got wrestled away from the guy who was celebrating with it. So we'll see what happens there.
So tell me, how is their stats doing this year?
Now, their stats are incredible. Like we've been talking about, Ohtani's been doing fantastic in terms of his overall production. But one player that I think we should definitely be talking about is Aaron Judge. Now, Aaron Judge is a player that many people consider to be unnatural in terms of his style of home run production because he's always been at the top of the league. For example, just 2 seasons ago, he hit, 62, 63 home runs, was the most since the juiced players from the 2000s. And this season, he is still going on an impressive tear. So as you can see here in the pre-All-Star Game stats versus the post-All-Star Game stats, you can see that his batting average, on-base percentage, OPS, home runs per at-bat, and RBIs per at-bat are all significant jumps from when the season first began. And so that bodes well for the postseason because he is in the opposite of a slump. He is in a thump right now, and he's thumping those home runs over the wall every single time. He's getting a home run 1 out of 10 at-bats. He's getting an RBI 1 out of very 4 at-bats. And overall, his OPS is the highest in the league ever since, as I was saying before, the juice players from the 2000s. So it's going to be exciting to see how he ends up performing in the postseason.
I mean, the Yankees always are notorious for first-round chokes, and, this year would be no different. There's a lot to cover still with, the postseason, but I want to turn ourselves back to the regular season a little bit. You see, we have a lot of really bad teams this year, and unfortunately, one of those bad teams happened to be the Oakland A's, who unfortunately lost their stadium to greed. So, it really sucks for that Oakland fan base. They had a beautiful tribute to it over the last couple of days, but, where do the White Sox go from here? Right, the White Sox are, 120 losses so far. They're on a 3-game win streak. My 62 Mets are still intact. But they're a 120-loss team with very little development to go forward. Where do they go?
Well, here's where I think they should end up going. They should end up going to Oakland and relocate their team to the Coliseum. But in all seriousness, I think the Chicago White Sox are having a season that is just so impeccably bad, they can only get better from here. I mean, the bar is low enough.
You don't think they could be a 162-loss team?
We'll see what happens next season, but maybe they'll get lucky and get one of their pitchers has been doing actually really solid for them, even though he's at 4-12 on the season. He's been showing flashes of production. He has an ERA of about 4.5, which isn't great, but it's the best in the team. And I think if they were to pick a guy from that team to make the All-Star game, it would definitely be him because the rest of the team is batting in the 100s. You have pitchers that are absolutely getting quadruple-digit ERAs at practically 10s, 12s. Nobody knows who's driving the bus down in Chicago. And meanwhile, the Cubs on the other side, while they're not having the most success that they've always seen, they're still flourishing and doing way better than they had done just 2 seasons ago, back when the White Sox were, I think, the best team in their division.
It's crazy how quick teams will fall off. The Nationals, for example, 2019 World Series contenders, 2023 dumpster fires. So, it's baseball, and it's why I love that sport. It's incredible. Still a lot to come this postseason and a lot to look forward to. But for now, let's throw it to Sarah, Alex, and Malat, bringing you all the F1 coverage you need to see. We'll be right back after this.
Thanks, Spencer and Ethan. Now, there's been a lot of Formula One since we've been gone. We're back to break it down for you. There's been a massive shakeup in the Drivers' Championship. Lando Norris, we saw that one coming. We'll see. But Formula One is crazier than ever. So let's drive right in. First off, we've been gone for a little bit. What are some top moments from the summer break? Obviously, Singapore was the last race. We're on a little bit of a fall break now. Malat, what have you got?
I would say by far Silverstone would have to have been the best race in the season thus far. It was Hamilton's first win after a very long season going podiumless, and it being his last home race in Mercedes made it even more memorable. Alongside the Verstappen and Hamilton battle that went on throughout the whole race took me back to the 2021 season where that was going on throughout the entire season. Second, I have Canada. It was a very rainy race, which are particularly my favorite. It was, again, a Norris and Verstappen rivalry throughout the whole race, as both those teams seemed to be at the top of their performances. And then we also had a battle between the two Mercedes, where Russell ended up finishing P2 and Hamilton finishing P3. And then we also had a few DNFs, with both Ferraris DNFing due to car mechanical issues, and then Albon, Gasly, and Perez and Sargent all also being disqualified as well. And then lastly, I would say Spa. It was a great race. It had a slow start, but ends with lots of drama. We had an initial Mercedes P1 and P2, but then due to an underweight car from Russell, he ended up being disqualified, leading to Hamilton's second win of the entire season. And then we had Piastri in P2, which showed a true testament to his talent in F1, only being his second season, and he's been able to pick up a few podiums throughout the season.
Yeah, Sarah? Going to send it over to you. Any of the same ones, or you have some different moments?
Yeah, I 100% agree with Silverstone being one of my top threes, but I have to say I got to put Monza as my first spot. As a Ferrari fan, seeing Leclerc push through and get that win, the race itself was very exciting, but simply the celebration that you see from Ferrari whenever a Ferrari win happens in Italy was beautiful, and I think watching it just gave me chills. But then I would also say my second would 100% be Silverstone. To have 5 drivers with a shot of winning a Grand Prix has been more rare recently, so seeing that was a really cool opportunity to see those racers compete against each other. The overtaking skill that was shown in both the wet and dry areas was very impressive, and again, agree, such an emotional scene for Hamilton with that win. Going from
tears on the radio.
Oh my God,
end,
absolutely. It was beautiful.
Top radio call of the season, I think, at least so far.
And then I got to say my third was probably Miami. Again, a very interesting race, but that win, having Lando have his first win, was definitely emotional as well. And I would also say that during that race, the fight between Oscar Piastri and Carlos Sainz for fourth was also very, very entertaining.
Let's be honest, though, when Lando won Miami, did you think we'd end up where we are now after Singapore? Was that obvious that that might be kind of the start of a championship push? Or did it seem like it was kind of a one-off race, maybe like a Carlos Sainz win from last year, something like that, where it was alone? Did you expect this at all?
I think I didn't expect it to get as far as it did, and getting this close to Max in the championship and allowing then McLaren to go past Red Bull in the constructors. That was not what I was expecting from Miami, but it's very exciting to see that then happen.
Well, speaking of getting close from the championship gap, Singapore, the last race, bit of a dominating performance from Lando, which is something that we've been saying about Max for so long. And I mean, not to be foul language on air, but to quote Max, Red Bull are effed.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a problem for them so far. What did you make of that race?
That race, it felt like I was just not even there, because seeing this large of a margin was, again, something that we haven't seen since Max was so dominant last year. And seeing Lando be able to do that again is crazy. And seeing him lead all 62 laps of the race, while it does make for a boring race, it was definitely interesting to see the changes that McLaren has made in their car to be able to get to that point. Something that I also thought was interesting was, and this is a bit of the debate that's going on right now throughout Formula One about the fastest lap point, because Danny Rick got the fastest lap but wasn't awarded it because he was below the top 10, and they only give the fastest point to the driver if they're in the top 10. And you saw Verstappen appreciate this, but when he said on radio, "Thank you, Daniel," because he had beaten Norris for that lap, and that gives him just a little bit more pull between the two of them.
Yep. Well, the break is going to end in the second or third week of October with the United States Grand Prix in Austin. But Formula One isn't always about speed. It's a lot about looks, too. Malat, we got a tier list over there of some of the F1 liveries. Let's go through that. What do you got?
Yeah, we had a lot of new changes throughout the season with the liveries. First, we had the infamous change from Alfa Romeo over to Stake. However, this livery was absolute disappointment, so I'm going to have to put it in the burn it. Next, we have Haas. It was pretty similar to their livery from last season, but nothing too much. So I'll put it over here in the solid. And then next, we have our Williams. If I'm being completely honest, I am a huge fan of this livery. I think the colors are a really big change from what they were last season. And so I'm going to put it in the great. Next, we have our V-Carb. This is also a change from what they were last season, which was Alpha Tauri.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, where they were Alpha Tauri. And I'm also a huge fan of this one, so I will put it in the great. Next, we have the Alpine. Coming into the season, there was a lot of rumors that they would have an all-pink livery. However, evidently, we do not have that. And just for the disappointment leading up to it, I'm going to have to put it in solid. And then next, we have the Aston Martin. I would say they've been pretty consistent with their liveries for the past few years. Nothing too much, nothing too crazy. So then again, I will put it in the solid. And then we have the McLaren. It's a bit different from what it was last season. Personally, I am a fan of this one, so I will have to put it in the near perfect. And then next, we have the Ferrari. It's clean, it's precise, it's red. It's exactly what Ferrari needs and should be, as always. So I'm going to put it in biblical. And then we have our Mercedes. I also really am a fan of this one. It's clean, it's precise, it gets the job done. So I'll put it in near perfect. And then lastly, we have our Red Bull. If we're being completely honest, I don't think I could tell you like the liveries from Red Bull apart from the past 10 years. They've basically done the same thing over and over again. So we will put it in the solid.
All right. Well, there is plenty more to come in this F1 season, and we'll be back next month to take you through it. But next up on Unstoppable, Rami and Dan have top plays. We'll be right back after this.
Team after an abysmal year with the Flyers. Andrei Svechnikov makes his return this season.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Top 10 Plays. As always, I'm Rami Hanash Jr.
And I'm Dan Salim, your newest Top 10 correspondent. We're so excited to be back from a nice, long summer vacation, so let's jump right in.
At number 10, we're starting off with Colorado and Shedeur Sanders throwing a prayer with perfect timing to LeJonte Wester all the way from 50 yards to the end zone. And to send this game into overtime, they would eventually win this game against Baylor. What a ridiculous finish, and the crowd was going nuts.
At number 9, we've got Army versus the Temple Owls. Noah Short takes that ball and he runs 61 yards all the way to the end zone, starting off what would be an Army victory for this game.
What an absolute tear of a run by Nathan Short. Coming in at number 8, we head to Los Angeles for the Rams 49ers game as Stafford dumps it over to Kyren Williams. Look at that leap, looking like Simone Biles going into the end zone, flipping over Fred Warner, I think that is, on the ground, looking like a stylish gymnast.
Incredible. Number 7, and a week before the Rams win, the 49ers took a trip to Minnesota for a matchup against the Vikings, where Sam Darnold unloads a pass onto Justin Jefferson, who takes it all the way to the end zone for a 97-yard touchdown, the longest touchdown made so far this year, leading to a 23-17 Vikings victory.
What a pass. Coming in at number 6 is Arsenal against Man City. This was an epic draw 2-2, but look at Ricardo Calafiori from outside, banging it in off the right post. This was the best goal of the day by far. They would eventually give up a 98th minute equalizer, but still, what a goal.
And number 5, we're staying in LA for the Dodgers, where Shohei Ohtani becomes the first 50 out of 50 player in a Major League history after his 50th home run last Thursday in the 9th inning against the Marlins. Incredible.
Coming in at number 4, it's the Hawks, but no Tua as Geno Smith launches it to DK Metcalf for 71 yards all the way to the end zone. Look at the route as well from DK. He gets through Jalen Ramsey and then takes the safety up. He's too fast, running at 22 miles per hour on this play. He's just an absolute beast at 6'4".
And coming in at number 3, and speaking of birds, the Eagles edged out a win against the Saints after Saquon Barkley slices through the end zone to deliver a 15-12 victory.
And look at this 2-point attempt here. He went back to back.
Insane.
Absolutely great play. Coming in at number 2, the Lions bust out the lateral for, Jahmyr Gibbs, who goes all the way to the end zone. They have so many weapons on this offense. They dump it off to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then he just pitches it right back to Jahmyr Gibbs. I feel like he always has to do so much to get a score.
And coming in at number 1, it's the good old New York Yanks. After the intense tie between the Oakland A's, Juan Soto hits an RBI double in the 10th inning, delivering the Yankees a 4-2 win. Coming right as Soto was kept off the starting line with a swollen knee, but pushed through, truly showing off that Yankee grit.
No matter what happens, they'll always be better than the Mets. That wraps up our top 10 plays for this episode and the first episode of Unstoppable this semester.
Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next month.